Hi everyone, I'm joined here by Nathalie Herbelles, who is Senior Director for Security and Facilitation at ACI World. So Nathalie, thank you so much for joining me.
Pleasure.
First question for you is, we've seen huge workforce shortages which have been making headlines around the world. What is actually the cause of this?
Well, there's a range of causes, but you're right that this is a major problem at the moment. We see that there's really a combination that is of factors that is resulting in a perfect storm. Demographics, the great resignation at the moment as well as potentially the attractiveness of aviation as a sector to work in is probably decreasing. We probably see people not as interested in working in aviation as they used to be. We've lost some of our glamour and edge, and big issues, and we're working actively on that.
And what are you doing with ACI World to actually address this?
Yeah, so what we're doing is we're working on a white paper that will suggest solutions for airports to address the short-term challenges in the short term, in the long term, for their lower skilled workforce and the higher skilled workforce as well, because we see the reasons for the challenges, and the solutions might be different as well depending on what part of the workforce you're looking at. So this white paper will be coming out in October this year. But in the meantime, we want to make the most of the summer season in the Northern Hemisphere, which is creating huge short-term challenges, to come up with a range of things. We have an advisory bulletin that will come out shortly talking about the safety and security prioritization that needs to happen. We really think security and safety need to stay top priorities in the current environment of high turnover. We'll have a blog post, we'll have a paper coming up to the ICAO assembly. So we really want to make sure airports are aware that there are solutions and best practices that can be exchanged globally.
And this is a problem that can't be solved overnight. So how long do you foresee these workforce shortages continuing for?
Well, actually, I'm afraid that they're going to continue for the long term, because again, demographics is a mega trend that was happening before the pandemic, and we see the baby boomers are leaving the workforce. They have already left the workforce in pre-retirement packages during the pandemic. They're not coming back. They're not interested in coming back, and demographically, we just have a shorter workforce to contend with, and a lot of the younger generations, including the Gen Zs, for instance, are just not that interested in working in aviation compared to other sectors. So again, this is something where we want to highlight the great stuff that that make our industry a great place to work.
And what will we need to do to attract Generation Z?
So I think we need to leverage the fact that aviation is a platform for innovation, an international industry as well. I think we need to do a better job at allowing for the transfer of staff across borders, with international experience, allow them to move across jobs in different countries. I think that will really be attractive to them. And I think we need to highlight the fact that this is an exciting time to join the industry with everything that's being done on sustainability, with our work towards a net zero future. For people who perhaps think our industry could do a better job, I think the answer is, well, exactly. We are actively working on this, and you should join us to be part of the change that you want to see.
Now, you talked a lot about accessibility, most recently in our issue 3 of International Airport Review. Why is it so important that airports are working towards becoming 100% accessible to everyone?
Well, again, it's a sustainability issue. I think social sustainability means, caring for everyone, and actually, people with disabilities constitute 5% of the global population. It's increasing as well. We're also looking at people, elderly populations who may have difficulties going through the airport. So I think it's a moral and ethical imperative, but it also makes business sense, because a big part of your traveling population has a disability or will have a disability at some point in their life. Actually, it's very likely that any one of us will have a disability at some point. So we need to really build airports and make airports accessible, introduce more universal design. It's the right thing to do, and it's the right thing to do for business too.
Are we going to see any accreditations in the pipeline with ACI World and accessibility?
I can't tell you very much right now, but
Okay.
we're definitely looking on something that will allow airports to showcase the great stuff that they're doing.
Fantastic.
Yeah.
And are there any quick wins that you would say airports can do quickly and now that have quite minimal investment?
I would say training, because indeed there's a big infrastructure element that is it takes more planning and time. But training is something that is within reach, is a fairly quick win. And I think focusing, for instance, on non-visible, non-apparent visibilities, such as autism spectrum, Alzheimer, dementia, increasing the awareness of staff to really assist these people based on their unique needs is something that they should do.
Now, security is an added, health is an added security measure at the moment, which is causing quite a lot of queues around the world still. How do you see this being worked out in the future? Because this is probably not going to be the last pandemic that we see, unfortunately. So we need to be poised for the future in that case.
Yeah, well, I think airports have been very agile in responding to the pandemic, and a number of lessons have been learned. I think what we're going to see is probably more. There's an even higher business case for touchless processes in the future, and these really help on a number of fronts. They help with the workforce shortages because you have much more sort of manual processing, but you also have the hygienic aspect of not having to touch too many surfaces. So I think a number of exhibitors here this week have touchless solutions, and these are, I think, something we're going to see more of in the future.
And whilst I've got you here, you're a security expert. So what security trends do you envision becoming coming to the fore within the next couple of years?
I would say data is going to be something that is going to show even more promise. Data, artificial intelligence, machine learning, the automated detection of prohibited items. There's a lot of great stuff available out there. The challenge is going to be for us to have regulation that allows the technology to be fully leveraged, because very often the technology is there, but we just, we're restricted by the regulatory mandates.
That was my last question. So Nathalie, thank you so much for joining me.
Pleasure, Holly.